Hello, this is Terry Stephenson again. I'm going to tell another prison story, Texas prison story from 1990. It's going to be a two-part story. The story that I'm going to tell you about happened at the Diagnostic unit in Huntsville in 1990. That was my first assigned unit. I went through the academy in Killeen with Linda Woodman as the instructor, who was a hostage in the Carrasco tragedy in 1974, I believe it was. After that, I went to Diagnostic and started my career there as a CO2, like I said. Very easy unit, Diagnostic unit. I work third shift when the inmates are locked down. We have some assigned inmates, maybe just 100 and something assigned inmates, and the rest of them are all transient, being processed and sent to the farms or moved on down to Goree for more processing. So that's where I started, and didn't have a whole lot of trouble with inmates. One was about inmate that was actually a convict in his opinion, because he had an old number and he'd been locked up before, and he was locked up with the first timers, and he made a big issue out of it and caused some problems with me the first time, which, like I said, I only had 2 or 3 problems the whole time I was there for 8.5 months. But Diagnostic units where all the inmates go, or did back then. It's a processing center where even the celebrity inmates, David Crosby the singer, Bob Hayes, Dallas Cowboy football player. When I was there, Warren McVay of the Houston Oilers was on his way there, but I never saw him. I had hoped I would, but it never happened. I was a big football fan way back when, so Warren McVay would have been something, even meeting him in prison. So, like I said, it's a processing place. On the other shifts, inmate interview, visitor list, and all those things are all a part of the processing. And I worked third shift, like I said, and my story will be from third shift about my best friend and when he was in prison. So y'all hang around, and hope you enjoy the story. First, I have to give an introduction to it, a little bit about my best friend who ended up in prison. But we started running around together when I was 15, and he was only about 13. He came from a wealthy family, and I was a poor kid living out in the country, basically white trash. And his wealthy family or whatever bailed him out of everything, and he was just a little wilder than I was. Even at that age, he didn't have a limit on what he would do. We even got into walking by the jail in our county, whatever, Hamilton County Jail, and threw candy bars to the prisoners up there. And one time tore his sheet up and threw it out the window, and I tied a candy bar onto it. While he was pulling it up, the cops came and hauling ass on the grass right there in front of the jail or whatever. We scattered, of course, but that's another story. But we graduated up to more criminal activity or whatever, and I got kicked out of school when I was 16 and graduated in another town and came back home at 17. And 18, we were running around together. He was only 16 then, and we were getting drunk, smoking, whatever, every night, you name it. And he had a girlfriend, or 2 or 3. He was real popular, so we had 1 or 2 girlfriends all the time. So we were out running around, and I had a 65 Chevy Malibu. Had a 283 motor and a 3-speed on the column. It'd run about 105, 110 miles an hour. So he was driving one night, had his girlfriend in the middle, and I'm on the passenger side, and he had it on the floor running about 105, 10 miles an hour. He's just stomping on that accelerator, and that cover just slapping, that plastic accelerator cover just slapping like that, and he was just kept, come on, like that, go faster. So we got up on a bridge, a long bridge out in the country, and he ran over a possum. This possum just ran out in front of him, and he smashed it. So he just lets off the gas and coasts to a stop in a little bit. We didn't know what he was up to, his girlfriend and I. So he turns around, goes back to the bridge, and this possum's laying there dead. It's on its back. Now it's not bloody or anything, but it's dead. Probably had its neck broken or whatever. It's just laying there. It's laying there like this, dead on its back. And so he goes up and consoles the possum, like feeling sorry for it. He was just doing that crap to freak us out, which he was doing a pretty good job of it. But he's up there petting the possum back on the back of his neck and his back, and rubbing it and saying how sorry he is. I'm so sorry, Mr. Possum, for killing you, and I didn't mean to, and I hope you forgive me, and all this kind of stuff. And he just keeps petting that possum. So we're freaking out about it, watching him. Of course, we're messed up. We've been drinking and smoking and whatever. So he leans down and kisses the damn possum in the mouth. So anyway, that freaked us out big time. But of course, he was doing it for our benefit, just to freak us out. So we load up, take off, whatever. We survived the night anyway. This is 1975. 15 years later, I hear about him. He's been to prison already in the early 80s, I believe. And by 1988 or 9 or something there, he was out of prison and he got into a shootout with the cops in Waco, and he ended up shooting the back glass out of a patrol car. I saw him on TV when he was arrested, and still have that video somewhere on VHS of the newscast. So anyway, I knew he was coming to prison. I was working at the Diagnostic unit in Huntsville and knew that he'd be coming back through there before he went to prison farm or where he was assigned to, whatever deal classification. So I checked the count room every time that I went or came to work. I would check that count room, especially if I had a day or two off, and I'd go by there and look for his name. Didn't find it for months. I mean, it's like a month or 2 or 3, however long. I didn't find his name, you know. So I came in from work after a day or so off, and there's his name in the deadgum count room. And his cell number is like 11-9, I think, row 11 and 9 cells, where I remember it. So I had to let my supervisor know that I had a friend that was in jail, not jail, but prison. So I had to tell him. So I wrote a note on IOC, it's inter-office communications note, to let him know that in case I'm assigned to work there, that there won't be a problem or whatever. But the lieutenant decided it wouldn't be a problem. He just asked me if it could be a problem me working there. I said, no, I don't see why it would. That was 15 years ago, say. So anyway, when my friend came into prison in cell 11-9, my best friend was working there, road dog, you'd say nowadays, but those words weren't even used in 1989 and 90. You might call him homie, but that was usually prisoners that were saying that. So anyway, he was going to work down there on C buildings, what it was at Diagnostic, row 11, cell 9. So when everything caught up, first thing you have to do, you get busy when you come on shift at 8 o'clock. You have to get a med run with all the people that are supposed to go to pill calls. Somebody's going to escort them down the hallway after you pull them out. Well, if you've got 8 cells of inmates, it's going to take you a while to do that, to go around getting everybody. So get all that done, and then whatever else. I was working in the control probably that night, but I told my friend EJ, I said, go down there to check my friend out. And I'd come up with some stories that we had done when we were kids, some things that only the two of us would even know, unless it was other people from hometown, of course. So I told him some stories that weren't really that wild stories, but he went down there when he called up and he was asking my friend all these different stories. So finally I called EJ the last time, and I said, I told him the possum story that I just told you on here about him kissing the possum. So the last time that EJ went down there by his cell, he looks up there and up against the bars. He's looking in there like this, and Phil's on the other side looking through the bars at him, and he says, hey man, you been kissing any possums lately? And EJ just walks off, and Phil's standing like, what's going on? What the hell? Who in the hell is this guy? He knows all this about me. So nothing else was said for the rest of the night. And I mean, dang, I checked the roster, whatever, for the next night, and guess where I was working? I was working on C building, right there where EJ and Phil are at. That was my next assignment the next night or whatever. Well, I probably had a lot of anxiety just thinking about it, knowing I was going to be down there with my old friend or whatever, best friend actually. So sure enough, I'd gone over to the other side of the hall, getting my pill call out or whatever. It's rows 9 and 10, and one of those is single cells with the punks and whatever, and it was always noisy and they didn't listen, so it'd take a while to deal with those guys because they didn't want to hear anything. They just want to talk smack all the time. So then I go over to the other side, over to that cell block, and I'm walking down there. Just as soon as I start down that row, there's Phil, and he sees me. He calls me this old name. He hollers, Canary, which was my nickname back then. Terry, and just call me Canary. So anyway, so I go over there to see Phil and talk to him for a minute. Said, when I get caught up, I'll talk to you or whatever, blah blah. And he said last night, some dude come up here. He kept asking me all this crap about stuff that only you and I would know, and I told him, how in the hell, or who in the hell is this guy? So anyway, that's the story of Phil and the Possum. Y'all take care.